in 2021, plus a fourth-rounder. Ramsey was a two-time Pro Bowler after getting drafted by the Jaguars with the 5th overall pick in the 2016 NFL Draft. He was actually the final of 3 deals the Rams made yesterday. It began with them trading away a different corner, Marcus Peters, going to the Ravens. All in all, the Rams had to trade 4 picks and Peters to haul in Ramsey and others. So the Rams are off to an up-and-down start and have been something of a disappointment. I happen to have 2 members of the defensive secondary sitting here with me, so perfect way to begin this. RC, I think I'll ask it as simply as I can. Does Jalen Ramsey make the... Okay.
All right, and it's straight up. You know, if you watch this game from Sunday, Jalen Ramsey doesn't put them in position to beat the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't throwing the ball all around the field, but the problem was neither was Jared Goff. He actually couldn't throw it 5 feet in front of him because of the pressure that he was under with this makeshift offensive line, with not having a running game, and Sean McVay maybe not being the genius we all thought he was without having the right pieces. And so though Jalen Ramsey gives you opportunities on defense to do different things and free up some safeties and allow you to blitz, and maybe gives Aaron Donald a little bit more time to get to the quarterback, it doesn't fix some of the woes that this team already has.
So, Dominique, here's a Jaguars team. They didn't really want to trade Jalen Ramsey. He fought through this thing one way or another. Do you think he comes out of this thing a winner?
Yeah, I think he wanted out and he got to a place where he wanted to be on a team that's not doing well right now, but a team that we could argue has a smart young coach, and you could argue that gives them a good future. The fact that they have a lot of money tied up in a very small number of players means that they're high-risk, high-reward team right now. I don't think they're going to see the rewards now, especially after they put Talib on IR. I was kind of excited about this trade when they moved away from Peters, who's a zone-heavy corner. They brought in a guy like Ramsey, and I was thinking that maybe Talib and Ramsey gives them some more flexibility on defense and being able to play man, but they lose Talib. It seems like more of a lateral move for that defense that isn't very good right now anyway.
And our insider, Dan Graziano, with us here this morning, and here's the part of it that I'm interested in. The owners are meeting as we speak, the NFL owners, and now they see, this is Jacksonville's owner, Shad Khan, just said last week, I don't want to trade him. We're going to do everything we can not to trade him, and now they're forced to trade him. How will that play?
Well, the owners are upset about this trend of players forcing themselves out of situations that they don't like. We've seen it in some high-profile cases, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. So the owners want to find a way to curb this. I don't know that their plan for doing it is going to work. They're talking about imposing new restrictions on training camp holdouts, more penalties for training camp holdouts than just the fines that are in place. That wouldn't address this trade situation. So you have a potentially seismic shift in the NFL where players are getting more and more power over their situations, and the owners are definitely in a position where they don't like that.
When it came out that Shad Khan didn't want to pay Jalen Ramsey, I thought he'd eventually play there. But if you look at what he's done, he got all of his checks and he gets his trade. This is a win. And if you're the owners and you're sitting in these meetings this week, you are trying to figure out a way to stop it. I don't think you can. I believe players have decided, we, at least the ones who feel like they can control their own destinies, their own destinations, they're going to make sure that they're doing that. And Jalen Ramsey definitely won here.
What's even more interesting is that Jalen Ramsey's issue with the Jaguars wasn't financially driven. He didn't like playing for Doug Marrone and Tom Coughlin, and he wanted out of the situation.
Do we firmly buy that?
Yes.
No, he wanted to. He 100% did not want to play for Tom Coughlin.
Yes. I get that, but he wants to go. He wants his deal. Everyone's going to have to pay him, right?
Everybody wants their money at some point, and he'll want to be the highest paid corner, and he probably will be. But he had made his peace with, I'm going to play out this.
Yes, absolutely.
And his option year is next year, so he wasn't in a rush.
And the Rams haven't signed him to an extension, which is a risky move when you commit 2 draft picks or 3 draft picks. You send them away. You're committed to paying this guy without any leverage.
He is under contract for next year, though.
And that's the thing. And they could have in Jacksonville redone his deal, and they chose not to. And I have always sat here believing that was the root of the reason that he wanted out of there. We'll see. It doesn't really matter at this point anymore. Here's my question. Zeke Elliott held out, got what he wanted. Le'Veon Bell, to your point, got what he wanted, got the big deal. As a guy who was from the union, these are wins for the players. The owners won't take that sitting down.
No, they won't. But you saw this happen in the NBA. The more you try to constrict and the more provisions you put in to try to control the players, there are always unintended consequences that backfire. So they should be happy with where they are now and push any further. And I think it becomes a problem. You don't want to upset the players. Right now, everyone's making a lot of money. You don't want to give them a reason to strike. You don't give them a reason to be angry. Just keep it going with the status quo.
But we're talking about a very small number of players here, right? I mean,
and I think that's the thing, though. With it being a very small number of players, they have to understand you get your wins where you can as an organization and an ownership group.
I just am always kind of appalled that the decision when you were faced with this is like, no, we're not going to do a better job by this player. We're not going to do a better job making sure that he wants to stay here. We're going to make it harder for him to leave. That doesn't make for a happy player. And when your star's unhappy, your locker rooms are fractured.
Okay, so this is the top story this morning from the NFL and the baseball here. Maria, where do we go next?
We go to the Cowboys and ride that roller coaster. Remember, they've lost 3 straight games after starting out 3-0. And we start with Dak Prescott's play. He's certainly been a part of the difference. He had an NFL best 91.7 total QBR through the first 3 weeks of the season, but it's 64.6 since. The defense, they've had a shift too. Dallas ranked 4th in the NFL through 3 weeks by allowing 14 points. Now, they're allowing 23 points a game since that 3-0 start. Injuries also playing a role. Starting tackles Smith and Collins missed Sunday, as did Randall Cobb and Amari Cooper. They played only 3 snaps due to his quad. And then on Sunday, Jerry Jones said the problem is not just Jason Garrett. And on Tuesday, he went a step further, calling him a, quote, top coach on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. He clarified his comments a little bit on Tuesday at the owners' meetings.
To some degree, we have invested a lot of money in the evolving of Jason as a head coach. As you know, he played for us as a backup. His daddy was in our scouting department. There's a lot of things that make him A+ across the board. So you've got to look at the entire picture. And now he's evolved into maybe ready to win some Super Bowls.
Yeah. How close do you think he is and the Cowboys are doing that?
Well, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't have him as our coach this year if I didn't think he was capable of winning a Super Bowl.
All right, A+ and top coach. These are the words that Jerry Jones has used. Dan Graziano, we want you to use your words and tell us what you're hearing on the situation with Coach Garrett, Jerry Jones, and the Cowboys.
Yeah, they've been publicly supportive, but also behind the scenes. I talked to someone with the Cowboys the other day and said, what are the chances you guys would make a coaching change in season? And the answer was 0 chance. It was like before I finished the sentence. So the only time the Cowboys have done that under Jerry Jones, it was to fire Wade Phillips and promote Jason Garrett. So they really love him. I mean, it's like, find you somebody who feels the way about you that Jerry Jones feels the way he does about Jason Garrett. So he's not under contract beyond this year. And I think there's an understanding around that place that if they don't make the playoffs, and maybe if they don't make a playoff run, that they look into making a change. But he's going to get this season. I mean, barring some ridiculously unforeseen disaster that involves probably the fraying of the relationship, I would think Jason Garrett is the Cowboys coach for the rest of the year.
Something we don't talk about probably often enough is how the locker room is responding to the issues and the coaching change potential that's lingering out there. So what have you heard about that?
That's the other thing this person told me the other day was we feel like the team plays hard for Jason. Now, they've come back in these last couple games. They get down early, and obviously you can argue, well, it's the Jets. They hadn't won a game yet. Should they have even been down early? But they don't feel like the team is giving up. They have injuries and they have all kinds of issues they're dealing with, but they don't feel like that. And you haven't heard a lot of locker room controversy during Jason Garrett's time there. It seems like the players feel pretty good about playing for him.
All right. Well, we feel pretty good about what you have to say about the Cowboys. Greeny, what do you have next?
Well, so I happen to have the president of the Jason Garrett fan club sitting next to me, and that is Dominique, who, to your credit, last year when the whole world had him fired midway through the season, you were still defending him, and obviously
they turned it around.
They turned around the second half of their season. So if they should lose, they play a monster game Sunday night against the Eagles. If they should lose that game, you know what the conversation is going to be. What do you make of Jason Garrett right now?
If they lose that game, I think it's very unlikely that they'll make the playoffs, and I think he will get and should get fired. I'll still be the president of the fan club, but part of being the president of the fan club is being honest, and you got to go when you don't achieve. But
by fired, you mean at the end of the season?
Yeah,
or you mean Monday morning?
No, not Monday morning. I think he gets.
And you're dead wrong. When you're the president of the fan club, you are totally dishonest. You are a yes man. You do not say anything against your folks.
Then I'm the vice president of the fan club there. But I think that one of the questions that Maria brought up is like how the locker room's responding to him. I think that maybe we've made too much of him not getting no high fives when he was coming off the field. But that was a real bad look. And that was the perception, is that his players don't believe in him anymore. They walk right by him and look at him and don't give him no dap. That is some disrespect. But I think we could assume that maybe they didn't see him and he still has control of that locker room.
I wonder, the thing is, when you're losing to the Jets, you don't want to give people no doubt. Like, you ain't worried about looking Jason Garrett in the eye. You know you stinking it up right now. The last quarterback they had don't have no job. You can't go into that game and lose. They wasn't worried about Jason Garrett. They're worried about people seeing their face.
If you watch the Cowboys play right now, and clearly they've lost 3 consecutive games since the step up in competition began, how much of it is attributable, do you think, to coaching?
A lot of it's attributed to coaching, because at the beginning of the season, we were talking about how Kellen Moore was so great and Chris Richard, the defensive coordinator, were great. And then Jerry gets on TV and he's like, that's my friend, because that's basically what he said. And I didn't know that you can get a coaching job and play in the XFL and be in the minor leagues or be in the G League. He's developing a coach so he can one day win a Super Bowl. That's not how this works. You get coaches now that are fired in their first year of coaching because they don't see that guy having an opportunity to win the Super Bowl. So the fact that we've given Jason Garrett almost a decade to get to this point doesn't make sense to me. And so he has to win. That means this year he needs to see some progression in this team toward winning a Super Bowl, or he's going to get a new coach.
I think that one of the important things that we need to point out is that the defense is what's really failing this team right now. Their offense is still, as crazy as it sounds, you look at the numbers, their offense is still above average. And Dak Prescott's QBR is still above average. They're doing okay on offense, but their drive starts are almost the worst in the league.
That's fine, but average is not what they're about here, right? They paid Zeke Elliott when they didn't have to, because this is a Super Bowl team. At least that's what the owner thinks.
Yep.
If they don't get to the Super Bowl, I have to believe he won't think it was a success. All right, Maria, let's get up and go.
Yeah, let's do it. RC, don't go anywhere, though. I got some questions for you. Titans replacing Marcus Mariota with Ryan Tannehill as their starting QB. What's your reaction to their decision?
My reaction to this is it's about time. Since 2016, Marcus Mariota has regressed. And what happened in the preseason, I would see it. Marcus Mariota wouldn't play well. Ryan Tannehill would come in and do a good job. And so when you can do those things and you have a backup who's a first-round pick, a former starter, you are trying to win football games. You have a run game. You have a good defense. You can't be held back by your quarterback. And that's why he was on a 5th-year option and not a new contract.
Okay, take a deep breath. Dominique, this one's for you. New England Patriots, they suspended their defensive end Michael Bennett for conduct detrimental to the team. That was after an disagreement with Brett Bielema, the D-line coach. What do you think if this relationship is salvageable or not?
Yeah, I definitely think it's salvageable. If they win and they get him back in the game, I think the problem is that he's not getting the reps that he expected or that he felt he was promised when he came there. He's a hard-working, productive player, and this is a team that finds use for everyone who has talent. He's a guy with talent. I hope they find a way to use him.
All right, Greeny, this one's just for you.
Yeah.
Rough night for the U.S. men's national soccer team. They lost to Canada 2-0, and it's their first time losing to Canada since April of 1985. U.S. had a 17-match unbeaten streak against the Canadians, and Taylor Twellman was on the call and a little fired up after the loss.
What is alarming to me is what you're getting from the United States. You tell me right now, you watch that game, do you believe that this is what it's going to be? The United States men's national team, you're in a crisis, you know it, and anyone else that tries to deny it is full of it. They are in crisis mode, and lucky for them, this isn't World Cup qualifying because they'd be in serious trouble right now.
Greeny?
I love him. Come on, that's my guy. Taylor Twellman.
Your guy. Okay, we got to decide who's Carolina's guy. Kyle Allen, obviously undefeated as a starter. What should they do about their Cam Newton getting healthy situation? We'll talk about it coming up. Plus, forget about Ohio State in November. Why Paul Feinbaum says Jim Harbaugh must win now, this weekend, in Happy Valley, or else.